Welcome back, folks. This time round we've got Hedges, some scatter terrain to throw down on a table for you. Again, all you want to do with this one is in stage 1 you just want to take your foam and then you want to measure out inch wide right across whatever piece of foam you're using, as many inch wide strips as you like. Both the base and the uprights that will form the hedge are made out of this inch long style, and once you do that you can cut them. Once you do that, you mark up these lines and then you can measure along whatever length of base section you would like. I believe I chose 6 inches in length, just to keep everything nice and uniform and together. I think a nice mix of 6 inch and 3 inch pieces work fairly well. Once you get them down on the table, it just gives you that little extra combination for tidying things up. And once you get those done, all you do is fill in your lines and then get cut. Once you're done cutting, once you get these lines all measured out, once you run the Stanley knife along them, you want to cut everything out in the right lengths, wherever you want. Then you want to pair them up, because that's the important part. Once you get them paired together, what you want to do is you want to start measuring up which part you want to be the base and which part you want to be the upright that will form the hedge. And then you make any final cuts and adjustments or measurements that you need to make. I find it's a little easier if you have the hedge be slightly shorter than the base. That way, once all the painting and flocking and gluing is done, if there's any extra on the edges, they still butt together fairly nicely and mix up onto one another. And then once you do that, you want to take your knife again, and then you just want to bevel the edges of your base, just so you don't have any big hard edges on your table, so you can have a nice gentle sloping run up and everything can blend in nicely and look a little more natural with the board. And then once you do that, you just want to complete that on half of every pair you've done. Make sure they all line up quite nicely again, and then once you do that, you can tidy up the table, get rid of all the offcuts and snips. Once you've got that done, you can take what I'm doing here, the edge of your nail, or a pen, or the edge of your knife, whatever you like, edge of your table, it all works. And then what you want to do is you want to smooth off and rough over the top edge of what will be the hedge, just to give it a little less of a square and uniform look. You want to make it look a little more natural. If this isn't pretty and doesn't turn out too nice, then that's more for the better, in my opinion, because there's no such thing as anything perfect or a straight line in nature. It doesn't have a habit of doing that. And if your terrain doesn't have a habit of doing that, well, it just makes it look a little more natural as well, in my opinion. So you want to go through all your pairs, just do the exact same thing, and just rinse and repeat until the entire process is done and you've made as many as you want. Stage 3, nice and easy, simple, quick one. I decided to texture it a little just to make the hedges again look that a little bit more natural and uneven, and let the flocking stick and hold a little better on the uprights. I've just used some good old-fashioned kitchen foil, and I hope no one's noticed it missing from the kitchen. And then it'll be fine. Then you want to do this over them all, both sides, up and down. You can rough up the corners and the edges a little more. Just smash it down anywhere you like, up and down all over both sides. And once that's done, you can get them set aside and move on to the next part. Stage 4, time to get the glue out and get things glued down. For this, it's quick and easy. The best option is hot glue. It holds quick enough and it sets off nicely that you can get on pretty quick within this stage, and you can do these hedges in a day. Then just press it down as much as you like, hard as you can, get a firm grip. You don't need to be perfectly straight, don't need to be perfectly centred, just so long as they're down and nice and you get them where you want them to be. So, stage 5, on to painting. Again, for this I will use the same sealant paint I like to use, the textured house paint that has just some normal house paint mixed in with some sand from any old hardware store you like, just to give it that gritty texture. It helps seal them in, harden them off, and keep everything together in one piece, and add in a little bit of protection and hardening. And then once that's done, same as usual, you paint the top half, you let the top half dry, and then you paint the bottom. Let the bottom half dry, and then you can move on to the next stage, and you can get some paints down on this. Stage 6, here we go. Time to get the craft paints out again. Cheap as you like, anything you want, any old shops, any old cheap craft paints will do. Here's some various cheap acrylics out of the collection of paints I have. You want to take a green, and I would like to use the green on the hedge part, and you want to use your dark brown areas on the, what will be the earth, the ground section of them, just to help differentiate them a little bit. You can paint the entire thing brown and not bother with any of the green on the upper half. I feel it just makes the hedges look a little better once they're done, if they're base coated in green as well. Again, personal preference. Once you've made some, once you make your own, do what you like, do what you're happy with, do what works for you and you can do, and that's all that really matters. As long as you're having fun what you're doing, does it really matter if it's perfect? It doesn't have to be the best. If you overlap a little, you overlap a little. These are simple and easy projects that you can do in a day. They're a great starter for people who are only getting involved and starting out. It's great to practice with a knife and the glue, your brush work. So do what you like. If you make them and they don't look as great, it doesn't matter. They're for you to see, not for everybody. And they'll work out alright. So just try it. If you ever want to start, it's a great place to start with. Project number 1, Hedges. It's good to go in my opinion. Yep, once you move on to the brown, just slap the brown on, dirty as you like, mix up the paints together, make it as natural and as scruffy as you look. Nature isn't pretty, and at this base coat stage, most paint jobs aren't pretty either. By the time the job's done though, however, it'll be looking nice and you won't even notice that much. So yep, just get slapping on. Once the slapping's done, we can move on to the next stage, and things can start to get a little sticky with some flock. Stage number 7, time to get things a little more dirty and sticky, so put something extra down on top of your workspace just to keep it a that extra little bit of clean. Don't want to stick too much glue or anything else down to it. I personally like to start with the top half of the hedge for this. I take the same watered down PVA, the 70-30 mix I like to use for this kind of stuff. Slap it all over. It doesn't need to be perfect, you don't need to get it everywhere. The beauty of the green base coat means that the green will be showing through in areas where the flock isn't as thick, and it will still look quite nice. For this, I am using a mix of thicker tree flocking for making your own trees, and some leftover other bits of 2 or 3 tubs of flocking from various projects I've mixed together in one, just to add some depth. I think there might even be some static grass in there, just to give it a little bit of life and rough natured look for these hedges. And then you just bring in the tray, scatter it on, knock off any excess, and once you knock the excess off, you can just put it straight back into the tub. This is maybe not the best method for hedges. However, I would suggest using a mix of leftover flocking because it can end up being a pretty horrible and not necessarily good thing to do this method of flocking over any particular flocks you're quite fond of. So if it's a leftover box of mix and match, it's a great thing for this, and it all ends up looking more natural in the end anyway. Once you've got it on, just knock it off, keep as much as you like, press on any bigger chunks that you want to press in, and then set it aside to dry. And then stage 8, once the body of your hedge is done, you can move on to doing the bases. Just use the same watered down PVA mix, slap it on there, and then I use the normal light green grass tones flock that I put down for most of my bases, and I just use that down as the base for any other few bits and pieces I want to put down, and then you just simply dribble it on. If there's any overspill, if it gets tangled up in the hedge, that doesn't make a difference. If it sticks in, it sticks in. It'll end up all looking all the more natural in the end, with some rough wildlife and nature filled hedges and hedgerows for whatever models you want to use them with. And again, once that's done, just set them aside to dry. Once it's all dried in, you can keep going with the next part. Stage 9. get some sealant down on them, whatever sealant you like to use. I'm just using some very watered down PVA. And once that's all dried, I decided that I'd add a few more tufts just to put some lowland shrubs mixed in with this hedge row. Again, just take some tacky glue, this is, which is just some very sticky PVA. Add a few dabs wherever you like, wherever you want to stick any tufts. Put a few on here and there, just to add a little bit more life to your tufts again. If you want to seal it again after this stage, you can add some more sealant just to keep the tufts in place. But I find the PVA, this tacky PVA, does as good enough a job as any. Again, super glue can be used for this. I happen to have the PVA that was tacky PVA sticking out, so I used that because it was sitting out at the time. And then once that's done, once they're all dried, that's pretty much your hedges complete and finished. An easy project to do in a day or an afternoon or a weekend when you have some free time if you felt like getting some terrain built. So there you go folks, that's your hedges made. Here's a few more pictures at the end of them on the table with a little bit of setup and use. Here's some of them on the board to show how the styles you can make up. And if you enjoyed this video and you want to come back for more, well, we'll just see you for the next one. See you then folks.